Contact sales at 877-748-0991 or visit silentrides.ca.
Want to invest in Alberta's workforce, fill your talent pipeline, and get funding? Careers, the next generation connects employers with motivated, pre-vetted youth through funded internships. Easy, impactful, and risk-free.
When you work with a group like Careers who have experience in that area, they can demystify and navigate all the complex steps and stakeholders that have to be involved.
Visit careersnextgen.ca today.
Got a car you're ready to part with? Find out what it's worth. Fast, easy, and totally free at Go Auto. We're talking top dollar trade-ins, whether it's a little worn or still rocking that new car smell. Just a few clicks, and boom, you've got your value. Text value to 780-777-7777 to start. That's value to 780 all sevens. Why guess what it's worth? Let Go Auto show you the money.
At Hughes, it's all about getting in and out quick and clean. No cash, no problem. With Hughes' new tap and wash system, all you need is your debit or credit card to get your vehicle sparkling clean.
Find us at HughesCarWash.com.
Albertans love to tailgate before the big game.
Gotta have burgers, hot dogs, obviously.
You're both missing out. Wilhauk beef jerky is the real MVP.
When it comes to tailgate snacks, there's only one unanimous pick.
Wilhauk beef jerky.
No barbecue required. Wilhauk is ready to eat before we head to our seats.
Bring it to your next football tailgate.
Wilhauk beef jerky. Because you don't win games with salad. Only available in Leduc.
The longest running basketball show in Canada airs every Saturday morning at 10 on Sports 1440. Hoop City with Paul Sir introduces a new generation of basketball talk, and it's right here on Edmonton's home for sports, Sports 1440.
Increase resistance to stress and support memory enhancement with new Roots Herbals Ashwagandha. Find it at Vitality Health Foods, where customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of every month. To ensure this product is right for you, always read and follow the label.
The Lowdown with Lowetide on Sports 1440. Can you fit sports encyclopedia on a business card?
Presented by Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy. WolfGMCBuick.com.
Welcome to the Lowdown. Today's show, all you need is love. Plus a goaltender who stops lots of pucks, a transfusion of PK men, a scoring winger for the third line, a new game plan for outlets and defending. Not that much. He lied. It's all coming up for you on the Lowdown for Wolf GMC Buick. Family owned and community driven. We're making it easy. Visit wolfgmcbuick.com. Our headliner of the day, Zach Lang, will join us a little bit later on. We are live on YouTube and Sports 1440, online at iHeartRadio, sports1440.ca, Radio Player Canada, Spotify, Apple Podcasts after the show, and we tweet it out on X. We're available on Twitter at Lowetide, at Declan Krueger, at JFenwick04, and at Donovan Paulson. That's right, it's the Roundtable, where these young lions try to beat down the old man, and what I do is I old man them. And so far, well, we're several months into this. I've been able to stave them off, or at least my card works and I get into work. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the introductions. He'll tell you he wants to talk Avs Wild, but he really wants to talk Timberwolves Spurs. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Josh Fenwick. Josh Fenwick, everybody.
Yeah, you couldn't have hit that more on the head. You know, you couldn't have hit that nail better.
Close game last night.
Yeah, it was. Deck and I were just talking about it as he came in here. The end of the game in particular, really close, really fun. When Ant checked into the game for the first time, I think he made 3 straight shots, and I went, Yeah, all right. You know what? Anthony Edwards might be the best player on the planet. Like, I don't know. He's doing this on a hyperextended knee. So this is the best part of the NBA playoffs.
He gets ready for this show by going into the mall and yelling at old people. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Donovan Paulson. Donovan Paulson.
That's maybe the most accurate one you've had yet, because me in the mall is just old people in front of me, and I'm yelling, "Walk faster! Move!
Get out of the way!
Get your ass in here!"
Do you push them down?
Yes,
Like,
I viciously push them down, and I throw their canes, their walkers. I throw them into the water.
So you're like George during the fire when that poor woman in the walker got thrown aside as he tried to exit.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Love it. There's nothing like being honest. Thank you. He'll tell you he's the least biased individual in sports media, and it's because he actually believes that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Declan Krueger. Declan Krueger, everybody.
Well, first of all, I am the most unbiased individual in sports media. But second of all, hey, just real quick, shout out Red Dress Day in support of missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Yeah,
they go
absolutely.
missing and murdered at a 12% higher clip than any other demographic. I got my red sweater on second day in a row, so wear some red, show some support.
And also, the problem is that we don't pay enough attention to it.
Absolutely.
We just ignore it. And amen for you for mentioning that. Well done by you, Declan Krueger. All right. Bouchard nurse to the World Hockey Championships. Roby Jorvente, who played very well in Bakersfield, didn't get called up. Max Jones got called up over him. So he's off on a 2-year deal. Is it the Swiss League or the Swedish League? I didn't write it down. I think it's the Swiss League. 2-year deal for Roby Jorvente. The question of the day today for our little roundtable is, what do the Oilers need? The reason I ask this is I went over it on my blog yesterday and I said, look, you can find a goalie, great, but make sure it's an upgrade. And, defense, you can trade Darnell Nurse, but you've got a couple of guys in Wallman and Ekholm who I like, but they're injury prone. So you also need to find somebody for top 4 left side defense when you trade Darnell Nurse. And I do think they need a scoring winger, because this team, we're not going to like it, but this team isn't going to get as much scoring as these guys grow older. I'm talking about Nuge and Hyman. McDavid and Draisaitl need younger line mates, and that's why we've seen guys like Podkolzin and Matt Savoy come up. So they need a third scoring line. I think they need to go out and get a winger who can score 20 goals from the third line and maybe be a little more dynamic and consistent than Jack Roslovic. So the new Roslovic has to be a little bigger, better transporter of the puck, and maybe be able to do a few more things. That's my priority list, and some penalty killers. What about you guys? What do you want? What's your laundry list? And it can be the coach. I did not include the coach because that's a decision I think that will be made pretty quickly. And if it's not the coach at the top who's changes, the coaching staff will change. But give me your list, if you would, of things you think the Edmonton Oilers need to do between now and October.
Donnie, you first, man.
All right, I'll fire away here. As crazy as it sounds, I don't think there needs to be any really drastic changes.
I would agree.
Like, I know some people are full go scorched earth mode here, but I don't think there's a lot that really needs to happen. There's some things you'd like for sure. I look at third line center and say that's a priority for me. I need, whether it's Jason Dickinson or not, just grab someone that's a great penalty killer. I'd prefer someone who gives a little bit more offense than Dickinson, if I'm being honest.
Nuge isn't an option for you.
No.
Okay.
We saw the experiment down the stretch, and I watched Nuge try and play center down the stretch, and it's just not the same. It doesn't work.
He's also fading as an offensive player on a skill line, though. So you might have to play him on the third line as a winger. Are you okay with that?
That I'm fine with.
Okay.
I just don't like him at center anymore. I don't. The boots have fallen off to me. He just doesn't. He doesn't feel the same.
I would run him at center, but I understand your point.
To me, I look at a third line center. I look and I say, whether that's Dickinson or not, that's a priority for me. I look on defense and I'm saying, if you're trading Darnell Nurse, which I'm not sold is going to happen.
I agree. I think that people are wanting it to happen, but you got to replace the 2 left-handed defensemen that you have on the team aside from Nurse are injured a lot. Nurse is a durable guy.
That's one of the points. Another point is, I think you could argue during the playoffs, Darnell Nurse was probably your best defenseman.
That tandem, 7 goals for, 2 against at 5-on-5. Sign Connor Murphy. You've got a nice pairing.
I would sign Connor Murphy. That's exactly where I was going. So like that, if you're not trading Nurse, you're signing Connor Murphy. If you are trading Nurse, you're probably letting Murphy walk.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. And then this is about getting some quality penalty killers. I'm not worried about this team scoring goals. They can score enough. They just need to lock bleep down.
Part of that is structure. And,
Yes.
and that's why I think they don't have to make as many moves. I agree totally with you. I don't think they have to make. I think they need penalty killers. And as much as I love that fourth line with Colton Dock and Frederick hammering guys, they need the center on the fourth line to be a penalty killer, and they need the center on the third line to be a penalty killer too.
Now, Josh Szymanski can become a penalty killer, I believe. He looked a little overwhelmed.
He doesn't have enough offense.
I don't think there's enough offense there. I would agree. But is this a player that you think can be a good enough fourth line center? I think he can be.
I think that's right. And you could put him between Doc and Frederick. And if two of them could penalty kill, and I understand that may not happen, but if two of them could penalty kill, that would really help.
I would look at Doc as a guy who I think could maybe penalty kill next year. But would they want to go that way? I don't know. But I would be interested in that experiment. Szymanski, for me, that's a guy. And would you like to see a Roslovic replacement? Absolutely. I have zero interest in re-signing Jack Roslovic. Zero.
No, well, I agree with that. And I talked to Gregor yesterday, and he doesn't think Dickinson's going to sign here. But he thinks, I like Kapanen, think he's going to sign there. Yeah. Another guy who can PK, but I like him because he can play second or third line right wing. He's good with Leon. And, he's a bigger guy. I'm not saying he's the be-all and end-all, but that's a guy that I think you don't have to overpay, who can come back and he's already part of the team.
So who are your big priorities? Who's your number one priority? I should rephrase.
Are you talking about players?
About either keeping in the fold or trying to bring in.
Well, my list goes like this, and I'm assuming Dickinson is out, okay?
Yes.
My list goes like this. I want Murphy, and I want Ingram, and I want Kapanen. I don't know what order, but those are the guys I want.
Okay. Yeah. I look at... I think Kapanen might be my guy I look at first.
I don't think he's going to cost a lot, but even if he does, just not long term. I'd rather pay more AAV and shorter term.
He's a guy who I look at and say, could you give him 2 years and be like, now listen, I don't know what it's going to look like, but could you give him 1 point something again, high 1 point something, low 2 point something?
The only thing I disagree with there is, and I don't know this because it's impossible to know, agents are going to look at the amount of money that is available and they might ask for 2.7. And so you might see some bloated contracts and go, what the hell? But that's the reason. But I agree with you. I think if you can get him for 2 years at reasonable dollars, that's a great deal to do.
That's a guy who I think you can go bargain bin hunting with again and have an impact player for you. Then second up for me is Murphy, and then I'd go Ingram.
Who you've got better, though. 901 save percentage at 5-on-5. I know that doesn't sound great, but the save percentage was going down this year.
I know it was going down this year, and I'm not saying I wouldn't keep Connor Ingram. Those are my three I would look at, and I would say I want to keep. Everybody else I'm looking at and saying I either A, don't want you back like Jack Roslovic. B, just think there might be a better option available. I really like Jason Dickinson, but do I think there's a better option available? Yeah. I like Curtis Lazar. Do I think you could bring him back for dirt cheap? Absolutely. But at some point, you got to have some room available for potential younger players.
Okay. You like third line center as your top priority?
Well, in terms of bringing a player in, yes.
Okay. What about you, Declan?
Yeah, it's such low hanging fruit, and I do agree with you guys with a lot of the sentiments you made. I don't think there need to be some drastic wholesale changes. I definitely agree with Donovan that I don't think scoring is an issue and that I don't think offense is an issue. If I'm looking to shore up one position, like I said, it's low hanging fruit. How many years have we said it in a row? But it does feel like it's goaltending. Not that I don't believe in Connor Ingram. Not that I don't think Connor Ingram's a good goalie. But you can't run him 82 games a season. Like, how many starts are you going to give Tristan Jarry? Do you trust him? Do you love him at that cap? Do you love the fact that you're paying him and Jack Campbell a combined $8 million? And you're probably not going to get that money off the books. Certainly not in Campbell's buyout. That would be the first thing I look at. And then,
who's better though?
Between. Oh, like you just mean who's the better?
I know that
goalie out
everybody,
there, right?
like, on my blog, everybody, get rid of the goalies. Okay, who do you want? And
no, it's a fair question. And
who's the upgrade? More importantly,
yeah, that's a fair question, and that's a conversation for another day, maybe, or later in the show.
Yeah.
The other thing, just to kind of put a bow on it before we throw it to Josh, is like the penalty. You need better penalty killers. So a 3C who can penalty kill if Dickinson's not going to be here. I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I at the top of my list is bring back Connor Murphy because it's
and Kapanen's top of my list. Sorry.
Yeah, top of my list is bring back Connor Murphy because Donnie, you're right. Like Darnell Nurse was probably their best defender in the entire playoffs. He was really good coming down the stretch. Connor Murphy woke something up inside of him, and so if you're able to sign back Connor Murphy, now Gregor's reported that Murphy has said he's made enough money in his career. He's talked to him about it. Like maybe he's not going to chase a bag. He's looking to win now. So if you can get a guy like Connor Murphy for, $2 million for 3 years or whatever, and you can make Nurse's contract look better because those two are playing together, that's huge because you're basically getting 2 for 1. You're unlocking something in Darnell Nurse, which would be huge for the program in the Oilers case. And then, you need that third line center because I agree with you, Donnie, like Nuge did not look good at center. He was an absolute shell of himself. So, that and then goaltending, like you got to figure something out.
Yeah, I goaltending's tough because, and we're going to talk about it later on in the show. Ingram was at 901. There's like 40 goalies with better save percentages, but they didn't play in front of this defense. And I like the defense, but a lot of what we're talking about here is structure. The outlets, the gapping between the forwards and the defense, those stretch passes that ended up with icings or turned back into the defensive zone, and even the penalty kill. A lot of what we're going to talk about today isn't so much personnel. It's a lot about what they were actually doing on the ice and how the coaches had, wanted them to deploy. I think there has to be a long look at that. And that's a coaching issue, which is a lot of vagary. And I think they'll make, they have to make that decision pretty soon. If they're going to go get a new coach, that decision has to happen soon.
Yes. At very least, there's a few guys on the staff who I'd be shocked if they return.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if Chris Knoblauch returns. I would be stunned if Mark Stewart returns.
Yeah, I think the blood's in the water a little bit.
The blood's in the water there. You're absolutely right on the PK. Like that just wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough at times last year too. So I would look at him and say he's probably on his way out. You're not going to fire your goaltending coach. Like that's not even a question. You're not going to fire.
Well, now they got rid of Dustin Schwartz, who is
he was always the problem.
Yeah,
my grade 7 science teacher, by the way.
No. and the goaltending has turned around, and they won several Stanley Cups since Dustin Schwartz left.
Yes, exactly right. So yeah, like I don't know. I think Mark Stewart's the guy that's for sure out. Everybody else, I look at and say, I'm varying degrees of not surprised if they come back. Like Chris Knoblauch, right now, the way I sit, if I had to give you my gut feeling, I feel like it's kind of 50-50.
So,
if you had to pick a side, where would you go?
I personally would can him.
Me too.
At some point, you have to have a guy who gets through to this team about playing defensively.
Here's the problem. If you're going to hire a button-down defensive coach, if you're going to hire a coach who has a plan that works, and they're out there, you have to have everybody buy in.
You're absolutely right.
And I don't know that that's going to happen.
So
the coach isn't coming here unless he has buy-in.
You're right. But what about Bruce Cassidy?
What about Bruce Cassidy? I think that Bruce Cassidy wouldn't come here without the buy-in.
That would be true.
He has a very specific way of coaching, and it works. But everybody has to play that style, and that means a change. This is a freewheeling team, man. They play shinny once they have the puck. That's a lot of change and a lot of discipline that's required. And I think they could win this. I think he could help them win the Stanley Cup.
I do too.
I just don't know that the appetite is there. And also remember, what do we estimate Connor McDavid is worth to the overall value of the Edmonton Oilers? Is it, 25% of it? We've seen the number in Forbes. It's a lot. Like he's worth a lot of money.
Tons. Yep.
So I know he wants to win a Stanley Cup. Does he want to win a Stanley Cup playing the way they play now, or does he want to play a more structured two-way game where he's not going to lead the league in scoring?
Here's my thing, though, is do you truly want to win or not?
Well, that's it.
That's the story for me. And that's one of the stories of this season was, to me, it felt like the Oilers took a lot of things for granted. And they felt like a team who was arrogant and thought to themselves, you know what? We can just flip the switch whenever we want. We're the Edmonton Oilers.
The Oilers play the same way they played for Todd McClellan, who tried to teach them how to play a defensive structured style, and they wouldn't do it. Like, there's a stubbornness with this team. And I don't think Cassidy, if he accepts the job, I'll be shocked. I don't know if it'll even been offered to him. But, when you come in, you want to have a plan that's going to work. And he's at a point in his life where he can kind of wait until the ideal opportunity.
He can absolutely wait. He has that cup. He's got the success in his past. I just think, for me, I'm at a point where I look and I say, what do I think is actually going to make this team better? And I think a hard ass in Bruce Cassidy can make this team better. At some point, you need to, I don't want to give your head a shake and pull your head out of your you-know-what. Yeah. Do you actually want to win?
That's the question. And do you want to, bring in Cassidy, maybe get Darren Radish, and build a team that can win a couple of different ways because they can score and their power play should be really good, but they would suppress offense on the other side. And they really have never done that.
They have never done that. But I would also pan over. Look at Cassidy in Vegas. Excuse me. You had Jack Eichel, who's still a fantastic offensive player. Mark Stone was still a fantastic offensive player. It's not like Connor McDavid's numbers would drop to under 100 points.
Oh no,
it would just be, let's play a little bit more defense. Let's stop cheating as much.
Yes,
because how many times did the cheating?
That's when I'm talking about gapping. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's like everybody on the Oilers was Robert Nielsen all year long. They're at the center ice line waiting for the pass. And, when you're Gretzky and you've got Yari Curry sending it, you can do that. This team isn't that talented. Anyway, we'll see. We'll talk about it more, but I do agree. Also, I really like the idea that Darren Radish might go somewhere. I know they'll sign him in Tampa, but, man, that would be interesting. Okay, very busy show.
Get a huge raise.
Though. Yeah. Huge. Massive. On the way, we're going to do rumors. We have Zach Lang at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, right?
1 o'clock. Yeah.
And then at 1:40, it's declinations. What have you got for us today, sir?
So it's Tuesday. That means we will all be giving our heat check and our ice bath of the week.
Okay.
Huge for the program.
Excited?
Do we have any questions about, is yours a hockey one? Usually there's some kind of question about what anybody's going to do. Do you have your heat check house bath?
House bath? No, I do not have it. I don't have it cooked up right now.
What about you, Josh?
No, I forget every Tuesday. That
what about you, Declan?
Yeah, my heat check Turkish bathhouse of the week. I'm working on it.
Love it. I got mine too. All right. On the way, rumors. Lowdown with Lowetide, brought to you by Wolf GMC Buick on Sports 1440 and YouTube.
Attention Alberta construction pros. For over 50 years, Jaffa Equipment Rentals has been your go-to for top-notch equipment and stellar service. Whether you need rentals or expert maintenance, we've got you covered. Stop by our Edmonton or Calgary locations today.
With Play Alberta, backing the home team goes beyond the bets. That's because your picks have provincial impact. Play Alberta is the only app in the province that puts all revenue directly back into supporting programs and services that Albertans rely on every day. By investing in the General Revenue Fund, every play, bet, and buy made on Play Alberta helps make a difference across the province. It feels good to know your fund goes further at home. Visit playalberta.ca/Gregor to learn more. Must be 18 plus to play. If you gamble, use your game sense.
60 years ago, we started selling trucks as Western GMC Buick. Today, we are Wolf GMC Buick. We're still located on the corner of 184th Street and Stony Plain Road with the same ownership for over 2 decades. Our customers have trusted our family-owned, community-driven business, and for that, we are thankful. If you're looking for a truck or SUV, pop in and one of our seasoned professionals will get you a great deal, hassle-free. Come trust our team at Wolf GMC Buick. Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy.
Come for Canada's largest trade shows, the biggest names in entertainment, exhilarating sporting events, and more. And stay for the experience at the Edmonton Expo Centre. Looking for the perfect place to host your next big event? From trade shows to galas, meetings, and concerts, the Edmonton Expo Centre has the space, event expertise, and service to make your next event unforgettable. With over 522,000 square feet of flexible event space, in-house catering, and operational expertise, they bring your biggest vision to life. Learn more at edmontonexpocentre.com today.
Build stamina and relieve fatigue with new Roots Herbals Energy, a well-balanced formula with D-ribose, astragalus, and ginseng. Find it at Vitality Health Foods, where customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of every month.
McValue breakfast meals are $5 plus tax every day. Get a sausage McMuffin, bagel with cream cheese product, or breakfast burrito with hash brown and small coffee, all for just $5 plus taxes. Available until 11 a.m. at Canadian restaurants. Product availability varies. Prices exclude delivery.
The tents are up and the deals are out. The Brick's biggest sale of the season is on now. Pick up to 6% off clearance items in the tents. Sofas start at $3.99 and save up to 50% on select mattresses. Get a sofa, coffee table, mattress, bed frame, and dining set, all for less than $1,500. Only at the Brick's tent set. See you in store for details and exclusions. The Brick, saving you more.
Hey there, I'm in the Fountain Tire sidecar, making a list of the things I'm doing this spring. 1. Saving you money, with up to 20% off select tires until June 13th. 2. Water skiing, tricky in a sidecar, but fun. And 3, saving you more money with mail-in rebates of up to $100 off a set of 4 select tires and $50 off a $150 service with the purchase of 4 select tires. Oh, that's 4 things. Oh well, restrictions apply. Book online at fountaintire.com. Fountain Tire. We're on this road together, Canada.
Breaking down the fine art of sports, one rep at a time. The Lowdown with Lowetide. Thanks for checking out Sports 1440.
Presented by Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy. WolfGMCBuick.com.
It's 12:23. This is the Lowdown on Sports 1440, brought to you by Wolf GMC Buick. Check them out, wolfgmcbuick.com. And I want to thank my friend Declan for remembering that it's Twang Tuesday and for playing different songs and up-tempo songs today. We had been in a little bit of a downbeat for several weeks worth of Twang Tuesdays, but you've really upped your game already today, sir. Well done.
Well, the first one was a Brandon request, so he can have 50% of the credit.
Okay. Good fellow, Brandon. He likes the country music, just like Donovan. Big fan. Big fan. 12:24. Time for Rumors, brought to you by Great Canadian Solar. Great Canadian. Who's the new client? Great Canadian Solar?
It is Harley Davidson of Edmonton.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I apologize. It'll only take me a minute, boys. Why don't you talk amongst yourselves?
I can fire it off here if you.
You know, if I could just get it printed, that would be.
Hey, valid.
We have a printer that doesn't work, so this makes it a little bit more difficult. Which, you know, I hate to do this on the air, but come on, we got to be able to find a printer that works because, you know, the client pays for this. Brought to you by Harley Davidson of Edmonton. Harley Davidson, Edmonton's open house is this Saturday, May 9th. Enter to win a new Harley plus door prizes and giveaways. Details at hdedmonton.com. I know the guys and girls out at Harley Davidson of Edmonton. Been there many, many times. Beautiful people. Make sure you check it out. All right, so a few things to talk about across the world of sports. Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse make World Hockey Championships. Roby Jorventi, who had a really good year in the AHL, with the Bakersfield Condors, has signed a 2-year deal overseas. And he would be a guy, if he had, stayed in the Edmonton organization, that I think had a outside shot of playing this year. Max Jones ate his lunch a little bit, and I thought Jones played well, in all honesty, when he came up here. I think that Stan Bowman's done a pretty good job of acquiring talent below the event horizon. I'm not talking about Podkolzin or Emerson, but I'm talking like Josh Szymanski, who's playing in the German league, and Quinn Hudson and Damian Carfagna, who I think we'll hear a lot about in the fall. Very mobile defenseman, a little undersized, but he can move the puck. He's left-handed. The Oilers have Spencer Stastny as the 7th guy, who's a really good, he's a pretty good penalty killer, and he can defend, but maybe they'll go for a little bit more offensive kind of player. But I do like what Bowman's done in terms of helping Bakersfield and maybe future helping Edmonton.
He's done a good job at these under-the-radar moves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to, I'll include Emberson and Podkolzin in those under-the-radar moves. Those are moves that everybody looked at and went, is this really going to make a difference? Podkolzin's made a difference. Emerson's made a difference.
You bet.
I mean, Szymanski comes over and he finds his way into a playoff lineup. Like there's been some good with Stan Bowman on the lesser end of this Oilers roster, but on the higher end of this Oilers roster, there's been some bad.
Oh yeah,
there's been a shocking amount of bad. So,
well, I think that Frederick is the one that stands out because it's so long. I don't even mind 3.85, although that's too much for a 3rd or 4th line guy. But what I object to is the length of the contract, because it really does tie you up. It's sort of like Jack Campbell plus a little bit. And that's the objection I have there. The Jake Wallman trade, he's injured a lot, but I love the player himself. So I'm okay with that. Any other deals that really stick in your craw, aside from the Tristan Jarry deal, which I absolutely agree was really handcuffed him for this summer because now he can't go get a free agent goalie.
Well, I mean, not that there was any free agent goalies to begin with, but you look at the Mangiapane deal, Lowetide deal. You look at, and I mean the signing, not the trade. The trade away for Dickinson, I've got no problem with, even though I know some people looked at that and went, 1st-round pick. I've got no problem with that. But the actual the signing of Mangiapane, that turned out to be a tough one. I mean, you kind of covered all the bases there. I
did like the Connor Murphy deal.
I liked the Connor Murphy deal. I didn't like the extension for Jake Wallman.
7 years.
I felt it was obvious. Like, I felt like they were obviously going to extend him, but I just didn't understand the rush to do so.
Well, I think that they bought a defenseman they really liked, and he looked good. And the big concern always is injury, and it has bit them. Certainly did last year. We don't know the future, but right now it looks like it's going to be a problematic contract.
When you acquire a defenseman who is historically fairly injury prone and has a really tough time defending against the rush, like Jake Wallman does, I don't understand why there's this massive rush to go out and extend him. If you want to talk about, you can have this massive cap savings if he plays really well. Yeah, but his points are going to be capped. He's not going to be playing first unit power play. Why would he be so much more expensive?
Well, they wanted to get ahead of it, but you're right. We can say it was a mistake because even if he plays well, $7 million, you got to bring more offense, and he won't because he's not on the power play. Want to talk about the NBA game, the Timberwolves last night. The score itself, we can talk about the Celtics if you want. They clearly are not in the Knicks class, but they weren't in the Celtics either, but they got blown out a little bit last night. But that game for the Timberwolves was interesting, boys.
I mean, where do we start with this one? Do we start with Anthony Edwards not having a leg and not being able to do anything for the first 3 quarters? Do we start with Wemby not being able to do anything offensively for the whole game? Now, granted, maybe because he was carrying such a heavy defensive workload.
I think we start with Wemby.
Okay.
Except we start with the good headline, which is new playoff record in blocks.
Yep. 12 blocks. Insane.
Because that then steamrolls into another thing of the Wolves just kept going at him. They were like, yeah, let's just, what happens if we just go at Wemby this whole time? Now, evidently, you give up 12 shots immediately, plus whatever they couldn't make over him that clanked off the back iron, which I wasn't counting. But
yeah, like his like blocks are one thing, but his altering of shots is just another. Like they got you looking like the unathletic 5th grader playing with the 6th graders at recess.
Why are you bringing up my past?
Hey, that's what like all of us used to be, though. Sorry, Deck. But also, like, Rudy Gobert is the same sort of deal as Wemby, except he's just that tier below. Play that sticks out to me, Keldon Johnson gets blocked by Rudy Gobert. Very next play goes for the same thing and floats it about 4 feet above, as high as Rudy Gobert can reach, and splashes that floater through. But it was really tight back and forth. I liked the game Steph Castle had. De'Aaron Fox was terrible. He was really, really, really bad. So that's unfortunate. But Jaden McDaniels gave him props, said that like De'Aaron Fox was a good player and he was looking forward to guarding him. That was a good matchup. So he gave De'Aaron Fox way more credit than he gave the entirety of the Denver Nuggets. And he went out and defended him to prove that, yep, I can't let this guy score. But the young guys did really well. Dylan Harper off the bench, I was very impressed. And then flipping to the other side, the Wolves are just getting it done by committee. Like Anthony Edwards came off the bench. He didn't even come in the game until the second quarter, I think. And then, made 3 straight shots and then clank, 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 clank. But
that is a team. Like Julius Randle can randomly play some ISO ball and can really do some things offensively. Now, as far, just to, kind of wrap this whole thing up, as far as the series goes, I'm still rolling with San Antonio.
I'm still rolling with
I don't think Minnesota necessarily gave them their best. But I do feel like there were some things optically that you're like, we're not going to see this every game for a 7-game series, which is why I'm still going to roll with San Antonio.
Looks like midnight for the 76ers against the Knicks, boys.
Yeah.
But look, they had 2 30-point losses versus the Celtics too. And they came back and won that series. So who knows?
Fun little stat for you. The New York Knicks are the first team in NBA playoff history to close out a series with a 35 or greater point win and open their next series with a 35 or more point win.
Man,
I do think the Knicks could make the NBA Finals.
It would be such a big story. Oh my God, you'd be seeing video from 1973.
The thing is, like, they're just playing to lose. You know what I mean? Like,
interesting. I've been waiting on the Knicks story, like certainly since Ewing, but even before then. For them to get back and to do something.
Man, they got close, but Hakeem Olajuwon is simply too good.
Yeah. All right, baseball. One of the great pitchers in today's MLB is Tariq Skubal, who pitches for the Detroit Tigers. And they offered him a contract, and he said no, and he was going to be worth millions. He has undergone surgery to remove loose bodies from his elbow. 2 to 3 months he's out. They definitely cost Detroit in a big way. They can't trade him if they're out of it now, I don't think. And it could cost Skubal if he doesn't come back and play. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be pitchers because it's just bad, man. Like Skubal is like, if it wasn't him, it was Crochet, and if it wasn't him, it was Skeens. So far, Skeens is the only healthy of the big 3 pitchers this year.
Better knock on wood there, Tide.
And also, if your kid's a left-hander, nothing wrong with them pitching a little bit.
No.
I would just say, in regards to the Detroit Tigers and where they stand, they'll be fine. As weird as it is to say they don't need Tariq Skubal this year for a while, I think they're fine in respect to their division's junk.
Well, it's not a strong division.
They have enough to get through their division without Skubal for a couple months, in my opinion. I don't like the Guardians one bit. The fact that the White Sox are even in the same question, even in the same ballpark as them, is shocking to me. I like the Royals. I think they'll be turning it up a little bit at some point. But the Tigers are the best team, even without Skubal, in my opinion, in that division. I think they haven't fully woken up yet, but I think it's a matter of time for that to happen. As for pitcher injuries as a whole, we've kind of covered all the bases at various different points, right? There's so many different ways to get hurt now as a pitcher, and with the velocity and it's curious to me how it's almost now the Tigers have actually done a fairly decent job of keeping pitchers healthy, but you look at teams like the Dodgers or the Rays, and those two teams always have like 4 or 5 Tommy Johns a year.
Yeah.
Because they're just asking their guys to throw so much harder. They're asking their guys to increase their spin. So they're working the muscles too much. They're overworking. They're overthrowing. There's so many different things that are wrong with pitching right now. I know when you watch it, it looks sensational.
Yeah.
When you actually think about the players themselves, it's a tough break. It's not going to cost Skubal any money, though.
The one thing that is true about the modern game is you throw everything as hard as you can. That wasn't the way. Like, people go, why don't they have so many complete games in the old days? Because pitchers didn't throw full throttle against every batter. Number one, the shortstop was hitting 160, and the pitcher also hit. So the lineups were far weaker offensively than they are now. It's more fun to watch baseball now if you like offense, but it's hell on pitchers. It truly is. And, it's I went away from baseball for a long time. And in the time that I was away, I didn't realize that Major League Baseball teams and players, they accept it. Sometimes like with Kate Horton, there's, a few tears or whatever, but they know that they're either going to have TJ or the brace surgery, and they're going to be gone a year and a half. It's sort of built into contracts. 2 years ago, the Red Sox signed Patrick Sandoval to a contract just as he was entering surgery, and they knew the first year was just going to be free money given, and then they felt like in the second year, they might get themselves a starter, and they may well. It's just a different way the world turns now than it did in the past. Interesting, but extremely frustrating if you're a fan of a particular team, in this case, the Detroit Tigers. All right, on the way, Zach Lang will join us at 1 o'clock today, and we'll talk about the Edmonton Oilers. Straight ahead, though, I'd like to talk about the Edmonton Oilers and what they might be able to do to turn themselves into a team like the Carolina Hurricanes, because there's a day coming when the Edmonton Oilers will not be competitive. And you can see it on the roster already. And we'll talk about that and go around the table next. Lowdown with Lowetide, brought to you by Wolf GMC Buick on Sports 1440 and YouTube.
Whether you're a craft beer connoisseur or more of a wine aficionado, there's always something new to discover at Sherbrooke Liquor, a unique family-owned independent liquor store. The selection? Incredible. The non-alcohol section is also very impressive. Sherbrooke Liquor, expert, knowledgeable staff with a passion for unique finds. More than just a liquor store, we're a community. Alberta's best, the one and only Sherbrooke Liquor. Wine, spirits, and oodles of beer. Visit SherbrookeLiquor.com.
Your protein drink should work as hard as you do. That's why Booster Juice is hitting the gym harder than ever, brother. Meet your new gym buddies, the Way Too Good and Green Gains Booster Mixers. 2 new ripped and refreshing menu options that bench some serious protein. Perfect for pre or post-workout. Way Too Good and Green Gains Booster Mixers taste like motivation. So what are you waiting for? Let's go!
Booster Juice. Canadian-born, blending since 1999.
60 years ago, we started selling trucks as Western GMC Buick. Today, we are Wolf GMC Buick. We're still located on the corner of 184th Street and Stony Plain Road with the same ownership for over 2 decades. Our customers have trusted our family-owned, community-driven business. And for that, we are thankful. If you're looking for a truck or SUV, pop in and one of our seasoned professionals will get you a great deal, hassle-free. Come trust our team at Wolf GMC Buick. Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy.
When your project can't afford downtime, call Japa Equipment Rentals. From excavators and wheel loaders to compaction equipment, Japa has the machines you need. Trusted since 1972. Visit JapaEquipment.com or stop by our Edmonton or Calgary locations.
Getting your vehicle sparkling clean doesn't have to cost a fortune. Take it into Hughes today and pay just loonies a wash.
Find us at HughesCarWash.com.
Get ready for a night of rock with the Gene Simmons Band. Monday, November 30th at Silent Ice Center in Nisku. The Gene Simmons Band, performing your favorite classic hits. Monday, November 30th at Silent Ice Center in Nisku. Tickets on sale now at SilentIceCenter.com. Don't miss the Gene Simmons Band.
shoulder pain, it can make even the simplest things like reaching up, lifting a bag, brushing your teeth, or sleeping frustrating. Rotator cuff strains, impingement, arthritis, they're some of the most common issues we treat every day. I'm Grant Fedoruk, and at Leading Edge Physio, our team brings postgraduate training, evidence-based technology, and just the right amount of humor and humility to help you feel better. Because we never forget the most important part, the gratitude we feel for every patient who allows us the opportunity to care for them. Because life shouldn't hurt. When it does, leadingedgephysio.com.
Mr. Rooter gets attacked by a Canada goose.
Oh, look at that. Another on-time arrival. Nothing stops Mr. Rooter from plumbing on schedule. You gotta be kidding me. Hello, Mr. Goose. I'm Mr. Rooter. Okay, this is what you train for. Through rain, sleet, or goose, the pipes get fixed.
For a plumber who does whatever it takes, Mr. Rooter.
This morning, your customer heard an ad, just not yours. This afternoon, they streamed for hours. You weren't there. Later, in store, they chose someone else because you weren't present. Audio 360 by Stingray stays with them from the drive to the decision. So next time, it is you. Stop chasing your audience. Surround them with Audio 360. May 27th is the one-day sale. Be ready. Visit sports1440.ca and click on Advertise with us.
O'Hanlon Paving is looking for Finnish skid steer operators, Finnish grader operators, Class 1 drivers, and more to join their Edmonton Road Crew team. Bring your positive attitude and great work ethic to their job fair, Friday, May 8th from 10 till 3. Visit o'hanlonpaving.com/careers.
Here's the Lowdown with Lowetide on Sports 1440.
Presented by Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy. WolfGMCBuick.com.
It's 1440 for Wolf GMC Buick. Check them out, wolfgmcbuick.com. I like that song. All right. Sports 1440 proud to support the 32nd annual McHappy Day coming up Wednesday. All McDonald's locations and restaurants drive through the app or ordering delivery. Zero delivery fee. Love it. All day, McDonald's donates a portion of proceeds, every menu item sold to Ronald McDonald House, keeping families with sick and injured children close when they need it the most. Go to sports1440.ca for more information. Will you go? I go every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about this. The Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers have a problem in that they have 2 years left on Connor McDavid's contract, and they have very few players left in their prime. Now, because they're elite talents, we will stretch it to say that Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl are in their prime because they're so good that you might as well count them in their prime. And we'll give you Evan Bouchard, who is actually is still in his prime as a player. So those three are the heart and soul of the Edmonton Oilers. They just are. And what you want is to marble players who are older and younger into the lineup, so you're always sort of guaranteeing success at the NHL level because you've got the older veterans you can count on, and maybe they've lost a step, but they're still wicked smart. And then you've got the young guys who can keep the pace of the team up, and they can do good things even aside from, what they have naturally skill-wise. So under 25 and under last year were Spencer Stastny, Ty Emberson, Evan Bouchard, Vasily Podkolzin, not bad, Colton Dock, Ike Howard, Matt Savoy. Those are the regulars that were. It's not a bad list. It really isn't. It's a lot better than it was a couple of years ago. Now, in the prime, we included Evan Bouchard, but let's include Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and we'll even say Connor Ingram in case he comes back. Wallman is 29, Kapanen 29. This is a year ago ages. And then Nurse is 30. He'll be 31. So he's kind of aging out on that. And this group, then from the Nurse group, 31 and older, that next year, there is Nurse, Dickinson, Tristan Jarry, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Matthias Janmark, Connor Murphy, Adam Henrique is gone. Matthias Ekholm will be back. And, of course, Zach Hyman as well, who will be 34 next year. So Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins are the obvious examples of players who were on the top line for the last, 3 or 4 years for the most part with Connor McDavid. And then that tweaked a little bit. Nuge moved down. Matt Savoy moved up to left wing. And that gave you energy and youth on that top line, which you need. Now, that's going to that erosion is becoming more pronounced each year. I think Nuge can play third line center next year. Donovan feels like he might be better on the wing. And some people, really believe that Nuge is done as a center. And that's a sign of erosion. That's what happens. Hyman is still a great scorer, but he gets injured a lot. Those things can happen. We know that's the case with Matthias Ekholm, Jake Wallman. So of the players who are not like on the team, and I'll include Ike Howard in this, but there's names like Ike Howard. We saw Josh Szymanski, Quinn Hudson. I've mentioned Damian Carfagna. They've got a couple of young goaltenders down there, Connor Ingram and Samuel Johnson. And maybe Alec Regula recovers and ends up being an NHL player. We'll see as that moves forward. That's an area that Stan Bowman has really concentrated on. And they've been drafting players, and some of them are developing, but they still have that need. So my question to all three of you is, understanding that you've traded a lot of your draft picks, at what point should Stan Bowman strongly consider an offer sheet? Can't be this year.
No, it can't be. But I mean, you saw St. Louis trade back to grab a pick of theirs, right?
Well,
to do the Oilers
you
offer
could do
sheets.
that, right?
You could theoretically do that. It just
because you have to get into the heart of your order. You have to, like, Podkolzin was a brilliant stroke because he was a young guy who could grow with the group, but he was young enough to be able to spend several years before he got to his peak. That's what they need.
Here's my thought process, though. Is any team actually going to make the same mistake the Oilers did?
Probably not, because nobody did before.
So my thought process is, you're not just kind of wasting another asset to go reacquire that same asset. Like, I don't.
But here's the thing. Let's say they draw a line. The next pick they have, the first round pick in 2028. Let's say we're not trading that. We'll trade the 2028 pick for a 26 or 27 first round pick, but we're not trading it for anything else. But the 2028 draft pick, that's part of the rebuild if McDavid leaves. So right now you're looking to house as many good players on your roster as you can.
You are, but if you're going to actually steal a player away on an offer sheet, you're going to have to overpay to hell. And can the Oilers afford to do that? No.
What they can afford to do is scout well enough. Now you can make an offer sheet with a second or a third round pick too. And if they've got the right scouts, the problem is, are they listening to the scouts? That's the problem that I have. I don't know. Now, I think Podkolzin was a great get. I really like Emerson as a get. I think they kind of fell into Roslovic. He didn't have anywhere else to go. And he thought, well, I can increase my value. And he did. He got 21 goals. But when the Oilers were good, when Sather was making great trades, he had great scouts, and he was a good scout himself. And Kevin Lowe made some really good trades. Steve Stais was a forward of the Atlanta Thrashers, and he actually signed him as a free agent. The Oilers have to do that really good hard work, and they don't do enough of it. And they need a 24-year-old left winger or center right now who can come in here and they can make a trade for or sign to an offer sheet.
I don't think the answer is going, like, I don't think young player. You saw it in the playoffs. Matt Savoy made no impact whatsoever. Josh Szymanski was virtually no impact.
But he's going to make more impact as time goes on. You got to let rookies. You have to let rookies learn.
I'm not all about when you have a window. To me, it's not all about you don't need young players all the time. I want as few young players as possible.
I think that's a mistake. You want the young legs, and you also want, if Zach Hyman gets hurt again, you want somebody who can plug in and play. If Ryan Nugent-Hopkins erodes more, you want somebody who can plug and play. Some of the people who are making $5 million or more are not going to be delivering $5 million or more next year and the year after and the year after. You have to plan for that.
The only player that I think is truly offer sheet susceptible, and I'm saying this, it would be a hell of an offer sheet, but it's Jason Robertson.
That'd be a hell of a target.
Do they have the picks to send back?
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
No, you'd have to go. You'd have to reacquire your picks.
You'd have to reacquire a ton of picks, and that would have to be a monster offer sheet. Like that would be a 3 first-round picks type of offer sheet, right? Like that's.
Well, they only have to trade for 2.
It's just like, I'm talking about he would be an offer sheet candidate for some other teams because you look at where Dallas is at in terms of cap wise. You look at where Dallas is at in terms of they haven't really believed in this player. I could see him going somewhere else.
The procurement department has a tough job because they have to find foundation pieces for not much. And they don't have what assets could you trade? Would you consider trading Ike Howard, for instance?
Heartbeat. Absolutely.
For maybe a goalie or an older, more established forward.
Established forward, goalie, I don't really care. They have too many small, can you have Matt Savoy and Isaac Howard in your top 6 at the same time?
Top 9, not top 6.
But to me,
playoffs
Isaac Howard's a top 6 or bust forward.
I think he can play in third line. So you have to give, you can't just say Savoy can't play in the playoffs because of his rookie season.
No, I think Matt Savoy is going to be a quality player for this team for a long time.
I agree.
But my thing is one of the Oilers had too many passengers, right? And when you have so many young players on your roster in a playoff series, this isn't what killed them by any means.
No, 5-on-5, they were okay. The penalty kill
was horrible.
Yeah.
But to me, Matt Savoy was a black hole. He did nothing. And when you're going into playoff series with rookies, that's what's going to happen.
Well, they pulled him off the top line.
Yes.
But he played on the third line and he gained experience, and that's what you want. You absolutely want that.
But if you're in a cup window, do you really want to be, you know what? We've got another year to let you grow in the playoff. That's my thing.
Well, okay, but the die is cast. When Corey Perry didn't come back, they stepped off of the all-veteran group, right?
Yes, but if
do you want to go back
win,
to that?
Well, you don't want to sign 40-year-olds. You want to sign guys who are in their probably late 20s.
Let me ask you then, would you trade Matt Savoy for a veteran?
No, because I think he's the player who kind of bridges all the gaps.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's the Nuge replacement.
I would agree. Yeah. He's the Swiss Army knife play. I love Matt Savoy's game, and don't take this as I hate Matt Savoy. I love his game. I think he's going to be a really important player for this
but
team.
You're right. He was not the factor he needed to be in the playoffs. I don't blame him for it because he's a rookie.
I don't blame him for it either. He gets a pass for me, but he is he's the gap bridger player. He gives you the PK. He gives you a little bit of power play at some point in his career. Decent, smart, great stick. There's so many things he does well.
Well, I hope they give Ike Howard a chance, and I hope they don't trade him, but I agree it is a possibility. I think that is absolutely something that we could see.
We should also probably address a couple of texts here. Why no Jason Dickinson?
I think he'll sign elsewhere. He's a center, and how many centers are out there?
This is true. Lots of texts about Bruce Cassidy, saying varying degrees of he's not the right coach, to some people saying the Oilers do need that hard-ass coach. It's very down the middle on Bruce Cassidy.
Okay, but let me ask you something. How much is Connor McDavid worth of this franchise?
A bleep ton.
Right. So if Connor McDavid wants Cassidy, then it would happen overnight.
This is probably true.
Going to have to stop playing the freewheeling style. And I don't know if there's an appetite for that among all the leader group of the Edmonton Oilers. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my guess.
Here is, I think, the perfect text to sum it up. You can't have it both ways. You want to win, play the damn way that gets it done. That is from Bet.
Well, I think we're there. And they said the right things. McDavid did. Draisaitl did. The GM said the right things. The coach said the right things. Now you have to follow through.
They acknowledge that the regular season matters, which I think was a big step, right?
Well, yeah, but I think I want to see them show it. Like, here's what happens. The coach doesn't get the team organized until game 7 or 8.
Yep.
They're still piddling around doing stuff. And they didn't even know the lines before, opening night. And then I do think there's a lack of, when a mistake is made, somebody has to be held accountable. And I don't think that happens enough. And I don't think it happens at the highest level. And, stick handling 1-on-4, Connor McDavid can do it. He can score a goal doing it that way. But when it turns over and goes the other way, that could result in a goal as well. All right. We're going to take a break. Look forward to more conversations. Zach Lang will join us from Oilers Nation at 1. Declination's on the way as well at 1:40. This is the Lowdown with Lowetide on Sports 1440. We're brought to you by Wolf GMC Buick. We're also on YouTube, and it's time for an update with Declan Krueger.
Brought to you by Elks Nation. For the best Elks coverage year-round with podcasts and articles, go to elksnation.ca. Player interviews, game analysis, and more. The best green and gold coverage online, elksnation.ca. Edmonton Oilers news is Evan Bouchard and Darnell Nurse are headed to Switzerland for the Men's World Hockey Championships. In the NHL tonight, just the one game, the Wild and Avalanche's Colorado leads that series 1-0. In the NBA, we're going to see two games, Cleveland and Detroit in Game 1 of their East semifinal series, and LA and the OKC Thunder in Game 1 of their West semifinal series. Tip-offs 5 and 6:30. In the MLB, action will get going at 4:40 with the Athletics and the Phillies, the Blue Jays and Rays. First pitch at the same time out in Tampa. Gosman on the mound for the Jays. Around the sporting world, Victor Hedman has stepped away from the Tampa Bay Lightning for mental health reasons. Lightning prospect Sam O'Reilly has been named OHL MVP, and it will be Philip Gustafson starting in that Abs game. I'm Declan Krueger. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Here's the Lowdown with Lowetide on Sports 1440.
Presented by Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy. WolfGMCBuick.com.
Zach Lang. It's a little after 1 o'clock. This is the Lowdown on Sports 1440, brought to you by Wolf GMC Buick. Family owned, community driven. We're making it easy. Visit wolfgmcbuick.com. And on the Lowdown this hour, we have Declan Krueger and Declinations coming up. Always an interesting roundtable when we go high and low. That'll be at 1:40. We're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers wall to wall. Our headliner of the day, brought to you by Faber.ca, is Zach Lang from Oilers Nation. Cash flow crunch got your business on the sidelines. Schedule your free consultation with Faber's licensed insolvency trustees and get back in the game. Visit Faber.ca. Mr. Lang, how are you?
Good, LT. How are you doing today?
I'm good. We've been talking about the Edmonton Oilers and things they may want to do, and it's all come around to goaltending. Most agree that Philip Gustafsson is the guy to get from the Minnesota Wild, and yet he's playing tonight after some struggles from Jesper Wallstedt, so maybe he's not in play. Do you have a solution for the goaltending issue? And if you do, please share.
I wish I had the answer for you here. It doesn't really feel like there's any good solution out there for the Edmonton Oilers. You know, Jordan Binnington's name has been thrown around in eternity for, you know, being a guy who could help fix the Edmonton Oilers crease. But, you know, statistically speaking, he was one of the worst goalies in the NHL last year. So I'm not convinced that he's the guy. I get the idea. He has shown up in big games. You look at what he did for Canada here. You know, he's had success, but I just am not sold on him. You know, Gustafsson's an interesting name too, because, you know, the money could work, but I think the biggest thing that the Oilers would have to figure out is how to get out of Tristan Jarry's contract to be able to make Gustafsson kind of fit into the puzzle that they're trying to, you know, put together here for the Edmonton Oilers. So it's a tough situation that they're in for sure. And, you know, the problem is that, you know, Tristan Jarry was supposed to be the guy. You know, he's got 2 years left on his contract at 5.37. McDavid has 2 years on his contract here. So when that trade went down, you know, the Oilers were kind of committing to Tristan Jarry being the guy to carry the Oilers through these 2 years of McDavid's deal. And it looks like that is far from what's going to be happening.
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, I look at this team and I know that this is an unpopular opinion, but I like the defense. I thought that Nurse with Connor Murphy, they were 7-2 in goals at 5-on-5 in the playoffs. That was a really good pairing. Ekholm with Bouchard, we know the quality there. The only issue is injury, mostly to Ekholm, so that's a bit of a problem. Wallman also injury issues, and Emerson played pretty well in the postseason. And I even like, you know, Spencer Stastny. So I like the defense. I don't like the style that they're playing and the outlet passes and the forwards being, you know, long gone on breakouts. But the defense itself, I like, and I think that up front, I can create 2 really strong lines, and I like a 4th line with Doc and Frederick and maybe Szymanski in the middle. So we're talking about the 3rd line and goaltending and maybe like some tweaks in how they break out and how they defend. How many big moves do you think they need to make?
It's a good question. I don't know how many big moves they're going to be able to make. You know, they don't have they've got a decent amount of cap space, but they got a lot of bodies to bring back. You know, they got to figure out what is it going to cost to retain Jason Dickinson and Connor Murphy. I think those 2 guys absolutely need to be, you know, priority number 1 and 2 for this team. Kasperi Kapanen probably due for a little bit of a raise from his previous contract, although, you know, I don't really see it being much more than $2.5 million. And then you kind of got to see what you're left over to play with there, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know, everybody's going to talk about Darnell Nurse this summer once again, right? And, you know, for me, I kind of wonder if this is maybe the summer where something could happen. You know, 2 years in a row now, the Oilers have gone to Darnell Nurse and said, hey, Darnell, would you be willing to waive your no trade clause? And he said, no, thank you. I'm happy where I am. which totally fair. I absolutely understand that, and he has the right to say so, with that clause. But next year it opens up to a 10-team no trade list. So if the Oilers are committed to trying to move out of Darnell Nurse's, remaining years of his contract, do they go to him this summer and say, hey, Darnell, listen, whether it's this year or next year, we're going to be trading you. This summer we can do it, working with you and finding you a destination you want to be in, where next year maybe that's not the case. That could really change the landscape of this Edmonton Oilers team and provide a massive shakeup to the core of this Edmonton Oilers roster. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. And again, too, it's not like there's a really robust UFA class out there. I haven't really dug deep into it yet here.
It's not good.
Yeah, everything I've been seeing, it doesn't sound like that's the case.
I've thought about the idea of trading Nurse, and even had Kyrou from St. Louis as a target, also making a lot of money, but a guy who could score 20 goals, and maybe even more if he was on a feature line. The only worry I have is that Nurse is so durable. Ekholm and Wallman have a tendency to get injured, and those are the three players that I would trust on a top two pairing, Ekholm, Nurse, Wallman. If they trade Nurse and one or both of those guys go down, that's another hole created. And as much as I like Spencer Stashny and I do like Damien Carfagna, I don't think you can count on either of those guys to, step in for long periods if necessary.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a great point. Like, Nurse has been incredibly durable for this team. I kind of wonder if there's a way to, take care of a couple of things with the Darnell Nurse trade. Would Detroit be interested in him? There was all the talk about the Red Wings trying to pick up, Quinn Hughes and trying to do so before he landed in Minnesota. So they're evidently looking for a big game on the back end or a big name player. And Darnell Nurse is that. They've got the logjam of the goalie prospects. Would they be willing to, flip back Sebastian Cossa and maybe one of their defensemen in a deal coming back to the Edmonton Oilers? It could be something interesting there. But again, I'm not even convinced that it's something that would actually happen. But I wouldn't be shocked if we, heard more smoke about it this summer and the Oilers trying to see if they can figure out a way to make it happen.
The Oilers have committed to a semi-small reboot with youth. We saw Matt Savoy this year. We saw Josh Szymanski this year, Colton Dach, a little bit of Ike Howard. I imagine Ike Howard will have a more prominent role this year. There's some talk of maybe coming to camp with fewer rookies or no rookies this year. Do you think the possibility of trading Ike Howard is a good one if they can get a veteran player maybe to slide in as a scoring winger to replace him, or do you think they have to go now to develop some youth and inexpensive contracts who can help maybe eventually be foundation players?
Well, listen, I mean, we talk about there being a weak UFA class here. So what's the other way that you get business done in the offseason? Well, it's by way of trades. It's not like the Oilers have a robust cabinet of things that they can trade, positive value assets. They've got a lack of first round picks here, this year and next year with the one being tied up conditionally. They got a couple seconds and a third, but, those aren't overly enticing, pieces in an off season, whereas more so they're ones that people would like around the trade deadline, right? So then you look at the prospect pool and you say, okay, well, the Oilers have done a pretty good job of slowly stacking the cupboards here with some guys who look like they might be able to play in the NHL. And I think Ike Howard is one of those guys, right? I mean, and I think he's somebody who would have positive trade value on the market. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Oilers were dangling him this summer in some potential trades to upgrade, that third line, maybe add a piece on the blue line or include him in some kind of a goaltending deal as well. So I think the prospect of Howard being traded is certainly high. And, you wonder about some of these other guys too, like Quinn Hudson, for example. Great year in the American Hockey League. He looks like he might be ready to take that next step into the NHL. If the Oilers are rolling with Szymanski as their 4C next fall and Colton Dach on his wing, well, that's two young forwards down there on that fourth line. And I think both have shown, promise that they can play in the bottom six for the Oilers. But again, like you said, it's how comfortable are they with so many young guys? I have a hard time seeing an Ike Howard breaking into the lineup or a Hudson breaking into the lineup, especially if they're concerned about that youth angle and having too many young guys, like maybe some people said they did this year.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because the Oilers are going to reach a point where Nugent Hopkins and Hyman and others aren't able to fill the net. Like Hyman has really, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but he's scored extremely well into his 30s, and he's done it just by pure hard work and the skill that God gave him, and the Oilers have benefited from that. But when he does begin to either get injury prone or can't score those goals, the Oilers have to have somebody in place. So let me reframe the issue and say this. If the Edmonton Oilers were able to go out somehow this summer and trade Ike Howard for, let's say, a goaltender of note, right? And then they were able to somehow pry Kyrou away from St. Louis, and instead of having Ike Howard as a player on the third line, you've got Kyrou on the second or third line. Is that something that you think the Oilers might find attractive?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been a fan of Jordan Kyrou's game for some time. He fits in well age-wise with the core, 28 years old, continues to be a productive, top six, middle six winger for the Blues. I think he's a guy that the Oilers would love to be able to grab if he were to shake loose in St. Louis. Maybe you wonder if there's a bigger deal with St. Louis there too, where it's Kyrou and Binnington, right? Especially with just how much smoke there's been around Binnington. At that point, you're talking about some more significant assets having to get moved out there. But St. Louis is one of those teams where I think you can kind of take a couple check marks off on the checklist that the Oilers would have this summer.
Yeah, and I think St. Louis is a team that would want some toughness, and that might be something that although they're pretty stacked at left defense, something they might be able to get from Edmonton as well. When you're looking at this team right now, I think we're just all in a waiting pattern because after all of the media avails on the weekend, there was a lot of torque online suggesting that Chris Knobloch might not be the coach next year. As each day passes, that waivers online, that doesn't mean the Edmonton Oilers aren't at least thinking about it. Do you have some thoughts about the coaching and whether or not some or all return?
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what happens there. Just talking around the ON offices the last couple of days, a lot of people here seem to think that there is going to be a coaching change coming. And, Bruce Cassidy is probably the most attractive coach out there, not named John Cooper, who, as Julian Breezeball said today, isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I'm fascinated to see what happens here. I don't think it would be an issue for the Oilers from an organizational standpoint to move on from, Chris Knobloch. Daryl Cates evidently has the money to pay the 3-year extension that Knobloch would be, kicking off this season here. To me, it almost feels like it'd be somewhat of an organizational failure if they did, though. I mean, it's only been 2 years that Knobloch has come into the fray here in Edmonton. He's right off of that 3-year contract extension. I don't think it's a very good look, visually speaking, to have to fire another coach here. But in the same breath, Cassidy might be the guy who can get the Edmonton Oilers over the top. He knows what the Pacific Division's all about. The Vegas Golden Knights have been the biggest threat to the Oilers in division for the last number of years. That's a team he evidently knows well, too. And then you wonder about the assistants as well. Mark Stewart's been here for 4 or 5 years now. I think Paul McFarland did a fine job, but then there becomes the Paul Coffey question, right? And what happens with that situation once again? I think the fact that Paul Coffey came down once again from the owner's suite to the bench was somewhat of a damning sign of how the organization feels about Chris Knobloch as the head coach of this team. That to me was a really significant moment within this season. Outside it may not have looked like much, but I think that it was also kind of one of those things where it kind of shows how the organization feels about Knobloch behind the bench.
So, let's say the Oilers are in conversation for a new coach and they're talking to Bruce Cassidy, and Cassidy names his price, and then he says, I need carte blanche. I need no interference. I don't need a phone call from the owner. I'll talk to the GM, but it's my decision is final, and everybody needs to buy in. Do you think the Edmonton Oilers at this stage of everybody's career are willing to adopt a very specific game plan that involves hard work without the puck and precise movement of the puck out of the zone? Do you think that finally this team is willing to play a disciplined game, even eschewing opportunities offensively when they're up 3-1 and feel like it's time to play fire wagon hockey?
Absolutely. I think this is the time where that change has to be made. You know, we've seen the Oilers play very structured hockey in the past and have much success doing so. Look at the last 2 Stanley Cup runs that the team went on. You know, all throughout both of those playoffs, they played extremely good hockey, probably the best hockey of the McDavid and Draisaitl era. And it was really, concerning to me to see the step backwards that they took throughout the regular season this year and in the playoffs. And I understand the playoffs. There's a lot of injuries the Oilers were dealing with there, but there were some fundamental mistakes that were going on almost every single shift, it felt like, that were costing the Edmonton Oilers against the Anaheim Ducks. I think this team really does need to kind of change the way that they play on a regular basis and recommit themselves to playing that sound structured hockey that they've had for the last number of years. And I think when you look at, some of the comments from Chris Knoblaw, since the season ended, like after game 6, he kind of had echoed the monotonous regular season comments McDavid had ahead of the playoffs. And to me, that was really concerning because as the head coach, it is your job to make sure that your players are getting up for these games in the regular season and they recognize how important they are at the end of the day. I think, this season was a real learning lesson once again for this Edmonton Oilers team. And even Connor McDavid said it too, that a lot of the veterans on the team have to find ways to get better overall in their game. And Draisaitl talked too about, himself and the lack of solid defensive play that he had this season. So I think it's really gut check time here for this organization, from the ownership all the way down to, the players.
Thanks so much for this, Zach Lang. Appreciate it. You have a great day.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for having me.
There you go, Zach Lang from Oilers Nation, making the Juice happy with his pronunciation of Knobloch. That's quite the text you sent in, Juice. Little torque on that puppy. People get upset at the most unusual things, I guess. If they want to win, they'll buy in 100%. That buy-in will give them what they need to win, I think. They've had defensive coaches before. Todd McClellan was one. McClellan used to have this system where Dan Boyle would get the puck. They'd ring it around, no matter where it was, they'd ring it around Dan Boyle on the right side of the defense, and he would either transport or pass the puck up. They could do that with Bouchard. They can do it any kinds of ways, but it requires everybody to know where they're supposed to be and to pay great attention to where everybody is on the opposite side when they don't have the puck in the defensive zone. And the Oilers they can do it, but they can't stay with it because they want to play fire wagon hockey.
That was young Oilers, though. I give them a pass on that.
Okay, but I'm talking about now.
Now, in today's current iteration of this team, they need to buy in. They need to actually say, and Chris Knobloch's a defensive coach.
Sure he is. He absolutely is. And they can play 37 goals for, 24 against in the last 11 games of the regular season. And I know they weren't terrific opposition, but guess what? Anaheim isn't top. They're not going to win the Stanley Cup.
Anaheim can't defend.
So
all the Oilers needed to do was lock it down defensively, and they would eventually get their goals offensively because Anaheim, they actually can't defend.
And they won the 5-on-5 goal share.
Yes.
And they would have won it by greater amounts if they'd played more sound defense. I have to say the Edmonton Oilers is our children learning. We're going to find out in the fall, no matter who the coach is. All right. It's 1:20. We've talked a lot, and you are going to get your say on the way next. And don't forget, coming up at 1:40 today, it's my favorite declinations. Heat check. Ice bath, and that's at 1:40 today, where I'll go around the room. They try to make sure they talk so long that I don't get a turn, but I'm going to insist that I get a turn today. 121 Lowdown with Lowetide, brought to you by Wolf GMC Buick on Sports 1440 and YouTube.
You see it? Fusion Promo Marketing can make it. Fusion makes high-quality, memorable promotional products for businesses, sports teams, and corporate events. From vision to reality, get noticed and remembered. Fusion with a Z, promomarketing.ca.
For many families, the stress of divorce can throw your life out of balance. The loss of a relationship, ongoing conflict, mounting legal bills, and uncertainty about the future can feel overwhelming. Hi, I'm Corey Anderson with Fairway Divorce Solutions. At Fairway, our team helps you restore balance through mediation, negotiation, and a unique step-by-step process. With 2 offices in Edmonton dedicated to serving your needs, our goal is simple: to help you navigate a path back to peace and clarity. Visit us today at Fairway Divorce.
McValue meals are here. Get the McD's you love for $5 plus tax every day with your choice of a McDouble, Junior Chicken, or Chicken Snack Wrap with small fries and small fountain drink. All for just $5 plus taxes. Canadian restaurants. Product availability varies. Prices exclude delivery.
Hi, I'm Colin Livingston, president of Cantork. We've been tightening bolts and redefining our industry for 25 years. Yes, a quarter century. And we're just getting started. Check us out at cantork.com. Our tools age better than I do.
Day or night, tasting just so right. You can order oodle noodle at oodlenoodle.ca, delivering you the news almost right away. Remember, you can order oodle noodle at oodlenoodle.ca. So sit on your couch all day and order oodlenoodle.ca. Oodle noodle.
If you've got a smart speaker, get it to play Sports 1440.
And it doesn't matter when you listen as we roll out the Sports Talk
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Edmonton's home for sports radio is Sports 1440.
What a performance by Action Electrical today. Their projects team kicked things off, designing and building with unmatched skill.
Then the service team swoops in for those crucial repairs and maintenance. And don't forget the testing team, ensuring everything's safe and sound before the solar team scores with sustainable energy.
A complete team effort. Have Action Electrical bring home a win for you and your project. Visit actionelectrical.net.
Hi, Mike here from Northgate Chevrolet Buick GMC. Would you like to be a part of history for the month of April? I'm kidding. Or as the kids say, bro, I'm joking. Would you like to help us set a record in April? Chill. Still kidding. At Northgate, we aren't trying to set any records or tell you how many vehicles we sell. And we really don't think you'd care. But what you will care about is this. Every dealer has the same costs. Trust me. GM does not have a favorite kid. You get to decide where you buy. 0% financing, a great selection, and of course, great people. Stop in and see us today. 13215 97th Street or business online at northgategm.com.
You're in Northgate country.
Everybody loves a beautiful day in Edmonton. Hey, it's Jamie, and Green Drop Lawn Care is giving you one more reason to love the nice weather. Next Nice Day service. People always ask, how soon can Green Drop get here? Well, when you sign up with Next Nice Day service, we'll be there by tomorrow. Assuming Mother Nature cooperates, we'll be fertilizing and treating your weeds by the very next day. We'll even include Drought Fighter at no additional cost. Just another reason we have been Canada's lawn expert since 1979. Easy online signups only at greendrop.com.
Running a business is tough. Finding new customers shouldn't be. Stop chasing leads. Let them come to you with Stingray, offering you access to more digital, outdoor, and traditional advertising platforms, including radio, connected TV, search and social, programmatic, digital advertising, and digital out-of-home. So while you're closing the next deal, Stingray is working for you to deliver more leads, more customers, more sales. It's that easy. Get started now at stingraymediasolutions.com and always be closing.
Breaking down the fine art of sports, one rep at a time. The Lowdown with Lowetide. Thanks for checking out Sports 1440.
Presented by Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy. WolfGMCBuick.com.
Lowdown with Lowetide on Sports 1440 for Wolf GMC Buick. Check them out, wolfgmcbuick.com. Was it a big moment in your life when you got your first car? It was for me, but the world is a different place now. So did that mean you had wheels, you had independence, you had like a 20 in your ass pocket, and you were headed to the Riv Rock room?
It was huge for me. I don't want to speak for Donovan or Josh, but yeah, when I got my first car, a 98 Corolla, forget about it. A standard too. I felt like
doctor.
I felt like David Hasselhoff, like cock and walk, man. It was awesome.
It was a big moment for sure. It's kind of that first step into freedom, right?
Mhm, yeah.
Still have my first car.
Yeah, it's a nice car.
Me too.
Yeah, it is the old Akira TSX. I don't want to say any more about what color it is, just in case people are driving by and are
hot
really angry at me after listening to the show.
Well, I go out there with a sledgehammer every day. You don't notice the damage I do? Oh, okay.
No, I don't.
It's a nice car.
Yeah, getting in the first car, that was big. I would say just like getting my license in general was bigger because that was like, it felt like the first step to freedom. A few months later, I did end up getting a car. Great car.
Did your dad check out the car before you bought your first car?
Yeah. So we all went. We got it off Facebook Marketplace or whatever.
Right.
Listed at 27. We got it for $2,000 with the winter tires.
Nice.
At 135,000 kilometers.
Woohoo!
And
So
it was
it's just
20,
barely
it's
driven.
Yeah. It's 20 years old.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, all right. Huge.
I had some cars, man. Back then, you young people are so screwed because you can't drive the kinds of cars I drove. I had the first car I had was a Chevy Bel Air Super Sport 67, gorgeous car. It was kind of maroon red with a white hardtop, and I put more oil than gas in that car because it burned so bad. But back then, the police didn't pull you over until you couldn't drive a car that was emitting poison. But, they do now. So there's nothing you can do. All right, back to the Oilers. Joe Daddy, hey, LT, would you say the Oilers management has ruined the team's future by constantly trading away young players for older players, only to find in the next year or two they need young players that they had just traded away? I can't help but see trade after trade after trade where they got older instead of younger. Well, I think that's you wanted to win a Stanley before now. Let's just say that right away. But I think that the Oilers, there's three ways to do it. Number one, you go all in on youth. Now, that would have meant at the 2015 draft, Peter Chiarelli doesn't trade any of the kids or any of the picks. He just keeps drafting Joel Eriksson and Brandon Carlo, and he finds a goalie somewhere in there. They didn't do that. They didn't build through the draft. They had good draft picks. They got a couple of more, and then they went to trades and free agency. The other way you could do it, aside from the way they did it, was a combination of the two. But by the time Ken Holland got here, he was trading everything he could, and because he wanted to win a Stanley Cup, and he damn near did in year 5. And they were signing free agents. And I want to give Ken Holland credit here. He had the pandemic in the middle of that, and that did have a huge impact. Now, I think Stan Bowman's going to get his shot. And I think his shot is here because of the increase in the salary cap. We're watching two trains going down two separate tracks right now. And I want to do this justice because I believe that sports is entertainment. And I believe that you are not going to see anything more entertaining in the next 12 months than the Edmonton Oilers versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm telling you, folks, it is so different and nobody's talking about it. Austin Matthews has 2 years left on his deal. In The Athletic today, you can read an article where he says he's not sure he's going to be here in the fall. Connor McDavid has 2 years left on his deal, or his new deal is 2 years long, and he said, I want to what? Win the Stanley Cup and win it with the Edmonton Oilers. So along with the fact that he's a brilliant hockey player and maybe the most fantastic player in the history of the world, Connor McDavid is also committed to this group, to Leon and to Darnell and to Evan Bouchard and all the rest. And it gives the huge advantage to the Edmonton Oilers. Now, Chayka and Sundin, as well received as they were in Toronto, what an inviting media avail that was. They have got their work cut out from, because if you trade Austin Matthews, you're going to get a lot of assets. But you know what those assets are going to be? Useless in the fall, It's going to be draft picks, guys who maybe can make the team, but they're not necessarily going to be difference makers. This is a massive problem for the Toronto Maple. I'm not saying they can't do it. I believe in analytics, and I don't know what Chayka's analytics are, but I will tell you that the family knows what's right because his sister's brilliant, and maybe they're going to make a difference. And I think Sundin could be as effective as Joe Sakic. I mean that. But understand, I'm not a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. It hurts me to defend them, not as much as defending the Montreal Canadiens, but it does hurt me to defend them. And the bottom line here is they took a massive risk. And they did, I think, because they had to. The Edmonton Oilers are not in that spot. We just talked at the beginning of this show about how many moves have to be made this summer. And I think to a man, we all said, well, it's not that many. Because as much as we bitch about the penalty killing, a lot of that is structure and a lot of that is coaching. I know they need a goaltender. I just don't know if the guy's out there. That's Stan Bowman's job. So the situations are so different, and yet there are some parallels between the Edmonton Oilers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Oilers made 2 Stanley Cup finals, and they made the playoffs this year. Toronto, what have they won?
A first-round title?
Right.
Nice.
And they didn't make the playoffs this year. The two situations are different, and everybody who writes stories makes the Oilers the spotlight. Nah, that's not the truth. The truth is that despite the fact that they lost against Anaheim, in a way it might be a blessing because they needed the rest. That's a fact. And then in another way, it gives, if management takes advantage of it, it gives them the opportunity to say, all right, why are we out of balance with our roster? Well, we got 2 defensemen making massive money. Maybe you move Darnell Nurse. That would be a rational move that you would make in business. You know, if you had 2 things that were extremely valuable, but they kind of duplicated each other and you could use some of that money elsewhere, maybe you would make a move like that. Maybe not, but it's something to contemplate. The Oilers have room to get better. I think they should get younger. Not everybody does. I think they've done a good job of procuring young talent. I would keep it. Not everybody believes in that. But the Edmonton Oilers have a chance here to do something, and they got to do it in a hurry. So I respect others' opinions about, not going young. Folks, the key is a goalie, and it might be Connor Ingram. I know my limitations, and I try to stay within them. I cannot today, in the year of our Lord 2026, on the 5th of May, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Happy day tomorrow. I can't tell you the name of the goaltender. I can't. I wish they could get Jesper Wallstedt, but he's already in the Hall of Fame. Maybe they can get Gustafsson. Not sure. But the job is clear for the Edmonton Oilers. The job is not clear for the Toronto Maple Leafs. If the Toronto Maple Leafs, if Chayka and Sundin do the job, then everybody has to give them credit. And if they get buried, I think that's the expectation.
A text I feel like we should get to with this whole goaltending conversation before we cut to break here.
You bet.
This is from Bobby. I don't agree with every word of his text, but I agree with some of this. This is exasperating. You keep talking about getting a quote established goaltender upgrade. In the same breath, you wax poetic about the Oilers embracing a structural defensive style.
Yes.
Both can't be true at the same time. Get the defensive side fixed, then see where your goaltending is once you have some sustained sound defensive play.
I've been saying that all along. That's why I said don't trade Stuart Skinner, because then you could have had all the free agent money or all the money to make a trade for a goalie in the summertime. Now you've got a sunk cost in Tristan Jarry. And that's why it's important to find out who the coach is next year, because the defensive structure, the outlets, the breakouts, the penalty kill, it's all connected and often blamed on the goaltender.
Here's my thing is how sure. Now, I know Oilers fans will have the answer to this. They're sure he's terrible. But how sure are you that Tristan Jarry is actually bad?
I'm not at all. That's what I'm saying. I've said at The Athletic, I've said here, I've written on my blog, I wouldn't make a move in goal because I simply don't know.
I would re-sign Connor Ingram, and I would run that tandem back. And I know that's not the sexy answer everybody wants, unless you can get Gustafsson for a somewhat unbelievably ridiculous cost. I just look at it and I say, I need to see this team have a better defensive structure because I think Connor Ingram's capable of getting you there. I also think that Tristan Jarry, I don't know if he was fully healthy down the stretch. He didn't look the same after tweaking.
I don't think he was
something.
ever right. Yeah.
Like
hamstring or something. Right?
I think
it was his groin that brought him out in December.
He just didn't look like the same guy pre-groin injury versus post-groin injury. So
and who is?
And I'm not making excuses for Tristan Jarry. I'm just saying I'm not sure that either guy's actually bad. I just watched a team that couldn't defend.
And that was the same argument I made about Stuart Skinner, and a lot of people disagreed. But
and this is also not me saying that Tristan Jarry or Connor Ingram are the answer.
No,
this
but
team,
I don't know.
I don't know because I didn't watch them have a good, competent NHL level defense in front of them. And I didn't watch.
The defense is fine. The gapping is wrong and the outlets are wrong. They need a coach who delivers a message they'll listen to.
Yes. And they need to make some quality changes in the way that they play in their defensive zone. For me, that starts with the forwards. That starts with the big boys.
Heat check, ice bath on the way. Looking forward to that. This is Lowdown with Lowetide, brought to you by Wolf GMC Buick on Sports 1440 and YouTube.
Good to go.
Now, this is the same.
With Mortgages to Go, you'll be good to go. Mortgagestogo.ca says yes when the banks say no. That's why Alberta has trusted Mortgages to Go for over 23 years. If you need cash and have equity in your home, you're approved instantly. Guaranteed. Call 1-888-888-5998. That's 1-888-888-5998. With Mortgages to Go, you'll say, I'm good to go.
Hey there, I'm in the Fountain Tire sidecar, making a list of the things I'm doing this spring. 1. Saving you money, with up to 20% off select tires until June 13th. 2. Water skiing, tricky in a sidecar, but fun. And 3. Saving you more money, with mail-in rebates of up to $100 off a set of 4 select tires and $50 off a $150 service with the purchase of 4 select tires. Oh, that's 4 things. Oh well, restrictions apply. Book online at fountaintire.com. Fountain Tire. We're on this road together, Canada.
O'Hanlon Paving is looking for Finnish skid steer operators, Finnish grader operators, Class 1 drivers, and more to join their Edmonton road crew team. Bring your positive attitude and great work ethic to their job fair, Friday, May 8th from 10 till 3. Visit o'hanlonpaving.com/careers.
Whether you're refinancing or buying your first home, mortgages are easier with help from a neighbor. At Vision Credit Union, you get face-to-face guidance from local lenders who know the market because, well, they live here too. They'll look at your whole financial picture with practical advice for payments, renewals, refinancing, and what makes sense long-term. Get a more neighborly mortgage. Contact your branch today or visit visioncu.ca. The Ford It's a Big Deal event is on now. Get a big deal on a 2026 F-150 STX with black appearance package. Visit your Alberta Ford store today.
Breaking down the fine art of sports, one rep at a time. The Lowdown with Lowetide. Thanks for checking out Sports 1440.
Presented by Wolf GMC Buick. We're making it easy. WolfGMCBuick.com.
With Lowetide on Sports 1440 for Wolf GMC Buick. I love the Twang Tuesday today. Declan, you did really well. It's like you said, okay, we're no repeats. And you just went and found really great music. I appreciate it.
I locked in.
You totally did, man.
The repeats will be returning next week, though.
Oh, come on.
Get ready to learn Zach Bryan and Morgan Wallen, everybody.
Oh, boy. Morgan Wallen might as well sponsor the show. Okay, it's time for Declinations, brought to you by Fairway Divorce Solutions. The clear road to a new life. There's a better way. Fairwaydivorce.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for, what do you call it again?
Heat check ice bath.
Right. It's a brand new feature. I'll get used to it. Don't worry. It's only been around for 6 or 8 weeks.
I was going to say.
And you would like to start, right?
Yeah. Just to running the risk of having someone take mine.
Yeah,
be
I understand.
detrimental.
Also, there's
Yeah.
never any time left when I start mine. So,
Well, we'll run through it quickly. My heat check of the week, and I think some people could, depending on how they go about this story, consider it an ice bath, which I think adds an interesting little twist. But it's Ariana Sabalenka, the number 1 ranked women's tennis player in the world. She has come out and called for a potential boycott if the players don't start receiving a bigger share of tournament revenue at Grand Slams. Coco Gauff, Elena Rybakina, Jasmine Paolini, Yannick Sinner have also been some of the leading players who have kind of echoed the sentiment. And you think about it, you're like, okay, like, women and men get the same money in tennis. The money's obviously very good, but when you look at some of the numbers, so I'll read this one here for you. The player's statement said that Roland Garros, which is the French Open, last year generated 395 million euros in revenue, a 14% year-on-year increase, yet the prize money rose only 5.4%, and it actually reduced the player's share to 14.3%. The players also claim their share of Roland Garros revenue has declined from 15.5 in 2024 to 14.9 projected this year, 2026. And for reference, the Australian Open has increased the players' compensation by 16%, the US Open by 20%. So I like these athletes standing on business. I like them saying, hey, we're the ones who put butts in the seat. We're the ones who make people turn on the TV. We're the reason the sponsors flock. We want to be paid accordingly. Now, like I said, there is kind of an element of like, hey, are these guys already overpaid? They're whining a little bit. Some people may go it from that angle, but I like the athletes standing up for what they believe they're worth. I like them going out trying to get as much money as possible because they're the ones that make it happen. So Ariana Sabalenka, you are my hot seat of the week. No, heat check of the week. Heat check of the week. Because hot seat would be bad. My ice bath of the week. Very, very obvious one here. This goes without saying. Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is, I mean, what you did was just hilarious. Like, you go out there and you say that this was my favorite season of my career, in a season where you blew a first round series to the 7th seed, where you were up 3-1 with 2 30-point wins, where your best player wasn't there, and you were putting up MVP caliber numbers. And guess what, Jaylen Brown? Not only did you say all that and say this was your favorite season, you have won an Eastern Conference Finals MVP and a Finals MVP. And you turned around and said this was your favorite season. So Jaylen Brown, I mean, this kind of shows the character and the mettle that you have. Oh, and by the way, you did this all as a Twitch streamer a la Kai Cenat or Neon or something along that vein, following the series loss. So Jaylen Brown, one of the easier ice baths of the week.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff, Deck. I'll go now. So my heat check of the week, not sports related this time. My heat check of the week just happened today. Surprise bonus news. My favorite TV show of all time, The Bear, dropped a bonus episode today. It's called Gary, and it's an hour-long episode just with Ebba Moss-Backrack and John Bernthal driving down the road. This is an absolute surprise to me, and I think to everybody that loves The Bear, because this was so kept under wraps, you had no idea. And so that was really, really, really cool to hear that that's coming out. I can't wait to go out and watch it, even though I'm probably going to have to stream it illegally. Sorry. But yes, that is my absolute...
Whoa. You don't do anything illegal.
Criminal?
I mean, no. I mean, morally gray. I'm going to have to do something morally gray. Morally gray.
I'm going to report you.
Whoa, hey, hold on. let's not be doing that now. But yes, anyways, that is my heat check. The Bear just absolutely coming from the top rope with a secret episode. That rules. My ice bath this week is from the other blown 3-1 lead, like Declan. Instead of Jaylen Brown,
it was about to be mine.
It is the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
You go up by 3, or you're up 3-1 on the number 1 seeded Detroit Pistons. You're holding Jalen Duren to just absolute lows of lows. You're costing him $100 million essentially over the next 5 years. And you get into game 6 and you look like you're about to put the Pistons away. And what do?
Talk about game 6.
You score 19 points in the second half. Cade Cunningham had 19 points in the fourth quarter. He tied your team scoring. They shot so poor, 23 straight misses, 13 misses from 3. Like, it is so poor. And then you go into game 7 and Paolo Banchero, you show up. Mr. Game 7. He's a playoff riser, no doubt. He figured it out. He was bad all year, but he got there in the playoffs. But what do the rest of the Orlando Magic do? From halftime of Game 6 to the end of Game 7, everyone on the Orlando Magic, not named Paolo Banchero, went a combined 20 of 76 from the field.
Maybe they were nervous.
They evidently were. Jalen Suggs missed 31 of his last 38 shots after Game 3. 4 straight games, he made 7 shots. He took 38 shots. So, and you blow the 3-1 lead, you get the doors blown off of you in the second half of Game 6 and Game 7.
Yeah.
And you lost to a guy who had a collapsed lung. He's literally playing with a flak jacket under his jersey, and you blew it. And then what happens? Jamal Mosley obviously is the scapegoat. He gets fired yesterday, but he was probably getting fired unless they won the first round.
So collapsed lungs for 60.
Okay, Gunningham knew what was up.
Here, just really quickly, some fourth quarter numbers: 8 points, 1 of 20 from the field, 0 of 10 from 3. They actually had 45 minutes of real time between 2 made baskets.
That real time, it like absolutely
4 of
damning.
37 in the second half.
Like this is an all-time like team collapse.
No, the
Like,
worst loss in the history of sports.
That it is honestly the worst loss in the history of sports. Paul and I talked about it. We were like, what's worse, the Hawks or the Magic? And I was going back and forth because the Hawks never showed up and got blown out by the Pistons or by the Knicks. And I was like, I'm sorry, but like it has to be the Orlando Magic. So anyways, the Orlando Magic, you are my ice bath. Get better at ball, please.
My heat check. I don't know how many weeks in a row I've done baseball, but it's another week in a row.
It's been a few.
Munetaka Murakami.
I don't even know what to say about it.
He was a guy who, if you looked at him, he was a WBC superstar. He was a Japanese superstar. Guy coming over this offseason as this super hyped, unbelievable power hitter. And everybody looked at the strikeouts and was terrified. Everybody thought this wouldn't translate over to the majors. And he's tied for first in home runs with Aaron Judge. He has 14 home runs in 35 games played. On the Chicago White Sox is probably the only reason why that White Sox team, well, not the only, but one of the only reasons why that White Sox team's even close to 500 right now. And he's on a 2-year deal, making virtually no money at all. And there is a very strong chance that he gets traded. Now, he is tied for first in home runs. He is bottom 5 in strikeouts. Like, he struck out a ton. He struck out 50 times to this point in the season, which is a boatload. But he is absolutely crushing baseballs out left, right, and center. Off to my ice bath here. We're looking towards the Vancouver Canucks. This is not official, but there is words coming out from a man named Elliot Friedman today about them taking a serious long look at Mr. Pierre Dorion to be their GM. And I don't know if they paid attention to what happened in Ottawa, but Pierre Dorion isn't very good at his job.
He was nervous.
Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he was too young. Maybe he wasn't ready for that role yet.
It is a name I did not expect to hear.
Well, I didn't expect to hear it, but when it's attached to the Vancouver Canucks, it makes sense. Because bad franchise, hiring bad people, well, not bad people, but bad at their jobs, it makes a lot of sense. Pierre Dorion made some really questionable moves in Ottawa, kind of always acquired the same player. He just looked at talent and went, I like that talent. I'm going to acquire you. So then he had 3 of the same left shot defensemen when he had Jacob Chikrin, Thomas Chabot, and then he had Jake Sanderson, right? So it was just
3 guys who were identical, and then he couldn't play one of them.
Yeah, and you can't play one of them. It's like the same thing that happened with Jake Wallman this year, where it's like, okay, he's going to play 15 minutes, and you're like, Jacob Chikrin can't play 15 minutes. What are you doing?
All right. During that last segment, Darcy came in and he gave us this lovely plaque, 2025 motorcycle ride for Dad fighting prostate cancer. He was on the show a while ago. Is that on the screen?
That is on.
And we want to thank him so much for doing that. And we were honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much for coming by. We kind of did that impromptu photo session.
Can you hold that back
Yeah,
up?
you wanna hold
Lowetide?
that
we
back
want to
up?
full screen that. We want to full screen that bad boy.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Yep, we got it.
Ride for that.
My heat check, other media events showed how intelligent these people are. And I mean management, coaches, and players. I just need them to follow through. And that's everybody. And Edmonton Oilers fans deserve and have earned a Stanley Cup. They had the decade of darkness, and now they've had the decade of disappointment. So all of the men who spoke on Saturday, they did brilliant work. Or was it Sunday?
Saturday.
They did brilliant work. Now we need to see you follow through. And I want to remind fans, McDavid said he wanted to win the cup and he wanted to win in Edmonton. And I want you to frame that in your mind and then look at what's happening in Toronto. And you will know the quality of the individual who said it. I'm just saying, I don't have to, but I just think that is a much better way to go, no matter what happens. Ice Bath, this isn't a total criticism. I'm just talking as a fan. I like the underdog. I like the 23rd man on a roster. I always have. I always cheer for the underdog. When I was a Boston Bruins fan, I also cheered for the Oakland Seals. It's just the way I am. It's how I'm wired. So Roby Jorvente played well in Bakersfield this year for the Edmonton Oilers organization. He signed today with HC Ambry Piotta of the Swiss League. He earned playing time in the NHL. Max Jones got that playing time. I'm not going to argue whether or not that was a good move or a bad move. I'm going to say that when a player earns a shot and he doesn't get it and he moves along, someone like me goes, damn, I was cheering for him. Because I always cheer for players like that. I always have. Larry Mavety was a guy that I cheered for as a kid because I had his WHA hockey card and I didn't have his NHL hockey card. And I had everybody else's WHA and NHL hockey card. He never played in the NHL. And for Roby Jorvente, he did play in the National Hockey League, but he's not going to have an NHL career. And nobody will remember that he was close ever, but he was. And he had some bad luck. He had some injury issues. We wish him the best, and we'll try to remember him as long as we can, just like we've remembered Larry Mavety. All right, 1:55. It is time for us to leave. Thanks so much for tuning into the Lowdown. Jason Krueger is on the way next. Please enjoy your day.
Brought to you by Sean Cunningham of Remax Real Estate. Get the home team advantage for your next move in the Edmonton area. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home, call or text Sean directly at 780-265-0165. Kevin Bouchard and Darnell Nurse both headed to Switzerland for the Men's World Hockey Championship in the league tonight. It'll be one game, the Wild and Avalanche, Colorado leading that series 1-0. Two games in the NBA, Cleveland and Detroit at 5 in game one of their series, and LA and the OKC Thunder at 6:30. Toronto Blue Jays, they'll throw their first pitch at 4:40. Kevin Gausman on the mound for that one as they're out in Tampa to take on the Rays. You can listen to that one on Sports 1440 on the AM dial only. Oh, Josh correcting me. It'll be Fox Sports Radio after the Jason Krueger Show. Victor Hedman stepping away from the Tampa Bay Lightning for mental health reasons. And I'm Declan Krueger. This has been a Sports 1440 update.